What is up guys, Stu here. So tomorrow, Detroit, the latest film from Katheryn Bigelow, is released over here in UK cinemas. I went and saw that bad boy a little bit early, so let's talk about that shit. So Detroit, if you haven't heard about it, is basically set during the riots that occurred in Detroit. So you probably linked those dots together so far. But it's a time where police and rioters and the general community were just clashing at each other in pretty violent ways. And this is basically the story of a couple of folks during that time and what happens in a hotel when some of them just kind of are having a fun time and then police get involved and decide to fucking just not be good people at all. And that's probably the worst paraphrasing of the actual situation that you've ever heard. Very sorry about that. But as I said, it's directed by Katheryn Bigelow, the director behind films like Hurt Locker, more recently Zero Dark 30, the film about capturing Bin Laden. But way back when, she did a little film called Point Break, which is also probably one of my favourite films ever. So yeah, consider me excited for this one. And she's become a kind of go-to director at the moment for filming sort of real-life events in a gritty, visceral way, and usually nailing that side of things. And this one is no different. I think she's absolutely smashed it again. This is a fantastic little gem of a film. But the film's got a really great cast filled up with some notable names. Most notable those obviously being John Boyega of Star Wars fame. If you don't know who he is at this point, then you're probably not watching Star Wars, which means what are you doing with your life, okay? Go and watch Star Wars, you goddamn loony. Yeah, he's fantastic in this film as this interesting character who is a black man who is also working as security kind of on the side of the police. So that's an interesting perspective to bring to these situations that are happening in the film. And with that comes some genuine moral dilemmas and emotional dilemmas. And I think he nails those side of things stunningly, actually. I've not been this blown away by a John Boyega performance yet. I haven't really seen anything that he's done that's completely floored me, but the dude, he just killed it here. But Will Poulter, on the other hand, plays one of those characters where you're just like, you really are the biggest fucking dick. It's one of those performances where it just gets you angry, okay? It just gets you angry. And from the trailers, I wasn't too sure how Will Poulter would do here. I couldn't picture him doing a role like this and doing it well, but on the whole, he does do a very solid job. I actually kind of forgot it was Will Poulter at times, which is quite hard because it's Will fucking Poulter, the little dude from Son of Rambo. I know, I just expected him to come on screen and be like, hey, fucking, I'm gonna kill you, and I'll be like, oh right, Will, put your fucking fidget spinner down and go play with the big kids, you daft old loony. But instead he comes on, pulls a gun out, and I'm like, oh shit. Lil Will got some balls. But there's also a couple of actors playing the main guys in the film who I've not seen working anything before, who I think did a fantastic job throughout this. Most notable of those being Algie Smith and Jacob Latimore, who I guess are kind of the central two characters we follow throughout this film. And they really fucking smash it. I believe in every scene of this film that these two people are going through the shit that they're going through. And it does a fantastic job of completely sucking you in to the violent events of the film. But yeah, their performances felt incredibly authentic and real, which is, I know, a cheesy thing to say at this point, but it's true, so I'm gonna say it. Yeah, everyone is at the top of their game in this film, giving solid performances, which, as I said, helped to really suck you into the world of the film. But that's something that's also helped big time by the direction from Katheryn Bigelow, because she's a director that knows action. She's very good at shooting action sequences and getting straight in there and creating gritty and visceral experiences in the cinema. And I was interested to see how that would lend itself to the Detroit riots here. I wasn't quite sure I was convinced by it from the trailers, but after watching the film, it really does work. At first, it's a little bit jarring, as any shaky cam is. I mean, the camera's sort of like all over there doing this. And I wanted to just sort of reach through the screen and just calm that, look, okay? Just hold it there. Take a deep breath. Now go. Shoot it that way. Go on. Blissful. But then like 5 minutes later, I completely forgot there was as much shaky cam going on with it. And I was just like fucking shoveling popcorn down my face like, you fucking better not do that shit. So yeah, it works. If anyone's gonna pull off shaky cam in a film for about 2 hours, it's Katheryn Bigelow. She does a great job. And the tension she's able to really squeeze out of every moment in this film, oh mama. I mean, it's really quite intense, this film. There's like a good half hour in the middle of this film. It's just stunningly executed. I wasn't just on the edge of my seat, I was fucking piggybacking the guy in front of me, and he was like, oh, hold me, just help me. So if anything, it's a bonding experience with other people in the theatre. So yeah, if you're lonely, just go watch Detroit. Or don't, actually. It is quite depressing. It just shows you humanity at its fucking worst. And you just can't help but feel absolutely gutted. I don't think there's any other word for it. As I was watching this film, it just shook me to my very core. Which sounds very overdramatic, but it's true. You know when you're watching something and you just feel helpless and it just angers you. That is what it was like watching this film. It is a gut-wrenching experience in probably the best way, which I think makes it a very important piece of cinema. It's a story I didn't know a huge amount, at least in the specifics. Like, obviously, I knew about the Detroit riots and all the stuff that led up to that, but I didn't specifically know about this story. And I always appreciate seeing films which show me a story I didn't necessarily know and seem to show it very well. So hats off to her for pulling it off in her own very Katheryn Bigelow-y way. That being said, though, there are certain things which I think could have been done a little bit better to really heighten this film and elevate it above being great to being something truly, truly memorable. And I think mainly what I'm talking about there is the fact that the first act and the final act seem to almost lose its footing a little bit. It seems to sort of roll on to these different things and these different viewpoints, and it's one of those things where it could have ended at many different points and I would have been satisfied with the way it did end. But instead it starts to kind of keep going and things start to roll into other things and themes start to develop, which I think are interesting and effective and are done well, but however well executed the ending that is actually there is, it does feel a little bit like it doesn't really know how it wants to wrap itself up there. And it does that thing which a lot of films do, which is where the big event happens and then it starts to touch on some of the kind of legal repercussions of that in court afterwards, and it almost feels like it rushes through those a bit. I would have happily watched a bigger half-hour chunk of just the legal court case in the end because it is so fascinating and interesting. And what it does do with that stuff is interesting and effective. I just wanted a bit more from it. But yeah, despite that, I think this is an incredibly powerful and impressive film. And I think Bigelow absolutely nails what she's trying to do here. It is an incredibly visceral experience. It gets you hooked and it completely holds you by the choke. And it's like, nope, you're not going anywhere. See you later. That does also mean that it can be quite hard to watch at points. And it's a very tough watch at certain points. It's one of those films. So I'm not sure how many times I could just happily go and rewatch Detroit. But it is a fantastic film and probably one of the better made films of the year. So I'm going to go ahead and give Detroit a very high 4 stars. Really, really love this one. And now that a couple of weeks have passed, I'm very excited to go and see it again. But I'm also kind of scared for my heart, but we'll see how it goes. But what about you guys? Have you seen Detroit? I know it's been out for a while over in the States, so if you've seen it, let me know what you thought about it over there. For us guys over in the UK, it does come out tomorrow, so you might not have seen it yet. If you have, though, let me know what you thought, or if you're excited to see it and what you think of Katheryn Bigelow's other films. Let's get a cute old discussion going. That would be dang lovely. And as usual, if you like this review and you want to see me talk about more shit, please go ahead and click subscribe. But until next time, stay beautiful, mother truckers.